All right, so we're diving deep today into building AI talent, and you've given us a ton of great material to work with. We've got building AI talent in the enterprise right here, and I'm really excited to dig into this with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stuff in here.
This whole AI talent landscape, I mean, everyone's talking about it right now.
Oh, yeah, it's red hot.
It seems like there's a ton of opportunity, but a ton of competition as well.
Yeah, huge competition.
Yeah.
I mean, over 75% of companies say that finding AI talent is like their top priority.
Wow.
But at the same time, like almost two-thirds are saying they're struggling to actually find it.
So there's this disconnect between
Yeah, huge disconnect.
really wanting it and needing it, and then actually being able to get it.
Exactly. It's a supply and demand problem.
So it's not just data scientists anymore, right?
Right. It's not just data scientists. The field is getting much more specialized.
I'm curious about that. What are some of the other roles that companies are looking for now?
Well, you're seeing a lot more niche roles like MLOps engineers, for example. People who can actually make sure that these AI systems work out in the real world.
Not just in the lab.
Not just in the lab, exactly. And then you have people like AI product managers, who bridge the gap between the technical development and the business side.
It's like we're mirroring the business world and the AI world. Now you've got to have all these different pieces.
That's right. You need a whole team.
So the guide also mentions some key skill gaps that companies are facing.
Yeah.
What are some of the big ones?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, deep learning is incredibly valuable.
Of course.
Especially in areas like natural language processing and computer vision. These are very hot skills right now.
I can imagine.
But really, what everyone is looking for is that unicorn employee.
Okay.
The person who has those incredible technical skills, but also understands business.
The double threat.
Yeah, the double threat. Exactly. Someone who can speak both languages.
All right, so we've got high demand, we've got limited supply, we've got all these evolving skill sets, no pressure, right?
Right, no pressure.
So how are companies actually tackling this talent problem? Is it better to build from within or to buy, go out and hire?
It's the age-old question, right? Build versus buy. And the guide really does a good job of kind of unpacking that dilemma.
So let's start with build.
Yeah.
The guide mentions that there are some benefits to building talent from within. Things like, having a better cultural fit and higher retention rates.
Absolutely.
I think they said it was like 25 to 35% higher than average.
Yeah, something like that. And, it can actually be cheaper to train your existing employees.
Cheaper. How so?
Well, the average cost to train an employee is somewhere between like $15,000 and $50,000.
That's not bad compared to some of these salaries we hear about.
No, it's not. But of course, it does take time.
How long are we talking?
You're looking at 12 to 18 months before someone's really up to speed.
Wow, so it's a real commitment.
Yeah, it's a long game. And during that training period, productivity can take a hit.
How much of a hit are we talking?
Sometimes as much as like 40 to 60%.
So you've really got to be committed to this long-term vision.
Absolutely.
All right, so what about buying talent? What are some of the advantages there?
Well, the big one is speed. Hiring experienced professionals can really accelerate your AI initiatives.
Like how much faster?
We're talking like 6 to 12 months faster.
That's huge.
It is huge, but of course that speed comes at a cost.
I bet it does.
Those high salaries for experienced AI professionals?
We've all heard the stories.
Oh, yeah. They can be 30 to 50% higher than comparable roles.
Plus, on top of that, you've got recruiting costs.
Right, exactly. Another 20 to 30% on top of that salary.
So even when you bring in these experienced people, it's not like they just walk in and know exactly how things work.
No, they don't. It takes time for them to get integrated into your company's culture and to understand your specific needs.
How long does that usually take?
You're probably looking at like 3 to 6 months.
So it seems like neither build nor buy is a perfect solution.
That's right. There's no magic bullet.
But the guide seems to suggest that a hybrid approach might be the way to go.
Exactly. Combining building and buying often turns out to be the most effective strategy.
So you get the best of both worlds.
That's the idea. You can bring in some experienced people to get things moving quickly.
Right.
But at the same time, you're developing your internal talent pool, so you're not always reliant on external hires.
And the guide even says that a hybrid approach can lead to faster time to value for AI initiatives.
Yeah, they're saying like 20 to 30% faster.
That's significant.
It really is.
So it's not just about finding the right people, it's about creating the right environment for them to thrive in.
Absolutely.
The guide talks about building an AI learning culture. What does that actually look like?
It's more than just offering a few online courses or sending people to a conference here and there.
I bet.
It really requires a shift in mindset.
The whole company.
The whole company, yeah. You need buy-in from leadership. You
Yeah.
need to dedicate time for learning.
So it's like making it part of the company DNA,
Exactly, weaving it into the fabric of the organization.
encouraging people to be curious about AI.
Yes, to experiment with it, to see how they can use it in their own work.
So it's not just for the techies.
Right, it's for everyone.
And speaking of learning, the guide also emphasizes the need for effective AI training programs. What are some of the key elements that make a program really stand out?
Well, the best programs that I've seen, they really seamlessly blend theory and practice.
Right.
They don't just lecture at you, they get you involved, they give you hands-on experience.
So you're actually applying what you're learning.
Exactly. And they also go beyond just the technical skills. They incorporate soft skills development as well.
Like what kind of soft skills?
Things like communication, collaboration, leadership.
So you can actually work effectively on those cross-functional teams.
Exactly. AI projects are rarely solo endeavors.
Makes sense. All right, so we've talked about building this AI learning culture. We've talked about training programs. But at the end of the day, you still need to attract and retain top AI talent.
That's right. And that's no easy feat in this market.
It's so competitive out there.
Oh.
So what are these highly sought-after individuals looking for?
It's not just about the money, although obviously that's important,
Of course.
but they also want to work on challenging projects. They want access to cutting-edge resources.
So they want to be on the cutting edge.
Exactly. They want to be pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And they want to feel like their work is making a difference.
Absolutely. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves.
So how do you keep these rock stars from jumping ship to the next shiny opportunity?
Retention is just as important as recruitment.
I can imagine.
And it takes more than just a big paycheck.
Okay, so what else are we doing?
You need to offer things like clear career paths, opportunities for advancement.
So they can see a future for themselves at the company.
Exactly. And, dedicated time for research and development.
So they can keep learning and growing.
Right. And of course, a healthy work-life balance.
Because you don't want them to burn out?
Nobody wants that.
Now, AI is no longer confined to the tech department. It's touching every aspect of business these days.
It really is.
So the guide talks about the rise of cross-functional AI teams. What are some of the challenges and rewards of bringing together these technical experts and people with deep knowledge in specific business areas?
Yeah, it's essential to have those cross-functional teams.
Right.
But it can also be a challenge to get everyone working together effectively.
Because they come from such different worlds.
Exactly. They have different ways of thinking, different ways of communicating.
I can imagine it leading to some clashes.
Oh, yeah. It definitely can, but when it works well, it can be incredibly powerful.
So how do you make it work well?
Well, you need to establish clear communication frameworks.
So everybody's on the same page.
Exactly. And you need to foster a culture of collaboration.
Where everyone feels valued and respected.
Exactly.
So it's not just about having the right technical skills. It's about having the right people skills.
That's right. AI is ultimately a human endeavor.
And most companies can't do it all alone.
Right. No, they can't.
The guide also talks about the importance of partners and vendors in building AI talent.
Absolutely.
So how do you go about choosing the right partners and building those sustainable relationships?
Well, you want to look for partners who align with your long-term vision and values.
Okay.
Not just someone who can do a quick project for you.
You want a real partnership.
Exactly. And you want partners who are committed to knowledge transfer.
So you're not just outsourcing, you're actually learning from them.
That's right. You're building your own internal capabilities.
This has already given me a much clearer picture of the AI talent landscape.
Yeah, it's a complex and ever-changing world.
But it's also incredibly exciting.
It really is.
I'm eager to dive deeper into some of these strategies and explore how they're playing out in the real world.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot more to unpack.
Let's do it.
It's one thing to build this AI talent, but, how do you actually measure if it's working?
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
How do you know if all this effort is actually paying off?
Right. Is it just about, counting heads, or is there something more to it?
The guide talks about this. It emphasizes looking beyond those simple metrics.
Yeah. You got to look at the bigger picture.
So not just how many people you've trained or how many projects you've completed.
Right. It's about aligning your measurement with your overall business goals.
So are these AI projects actually moving the needle? Are they driving real innovation?
Exactly. Are they impacting the bottom line?
I bet that involves looking at both hard data and those softer, more qualitative insights.
Absolutely. You want to track things like the number of AI projects that have been successfully implemented,
Okay.
the cost savings you've achieved through automation, maybe even the revenue generated from AI-powered products or services.
But it's also about capturing that buzz, that sense of excitement around AI.
Yeah, is it really changing the way people work?
Is it becoming part of the company culture?
Exactly.
So let's talk about the future. I mean, how do you future-proof your AI talent strategy in a field that's constantly changing?
It's a tough one, right? It's like trying to hit a moving target.
The guide mentions anticipating future trends and making
Mm.
sure your team has the skills they'll need down the line.
Yeah, it's not enough to just teach them the tools and techniques of today.
Right.
You have to instill that mindset of continuous learning.
Always be learning.
Always be learning, always be adapting.
So it's not just what they know, it's how they learn. It's
Exactly.
that learn-it-all mentality, not know-it-all.
I like that learn it all versus know it all.
Because things are changing so quickly,
Yeah.
you've got to be able to keep up.
And that requires a shift in mindset for the whole organization, not just the employees.
So it's about creating a culture that embraces experimentation,
Yes.
that sees failure as a learning opportunity.
Absolutely. You got to be willing to take risks, to try new things, even if it means failing sometimes.
And that brings us to knowledge management. I mean, knowledge is power, right? Especially in a field like AI.
Oh, it's essential.
So how do companies make sure that they're not just creating knowledge, but they're capturing it and
Well,
sharing it effectively?
you need good systems in place. Things like documentation systems, internal wikis, knowledge sharing platforms.
And it's not just about the technology, it's about the culture too.
Oh, absolutely. You have to encourage mentorship, create opportunities for informal knowledge exchange.
Communities of practice.
Exactly.
So that knowledge doesn't just stay siloed in someone's head.
Right. It needs to be shared and amplified throughout the organization.
And all of this ties back to performance management, which can be a little tricky when it comes to AI talent.
Yeah. How do you measure success when the definition of success is constantly evolving?
Right. Those traditional performance reviews, they often fall short.
They do. You can't just measure technical proficiency anymore.
You need to look at things like creativity, problem-solving skills, adaptability.
Exactly. You need to reward people for pushing the boundaries, for coming up with those innovative solutions.
Even if they don't always succeed.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture where people feel safe to experiment.
A psychologically safe environment.
Yeah, where they know that it's okay to take risks.
So diversity is obviously a big topic these days, and the guide talks about the importance of building a diverse and inclusive AI team.
It's not just a buzzword, it's essential.
Why is that?
Well, when you have a team with diverse perspectives and experiences, you're more likely to identify potential biases in your algorithms.
Well, that's a good point.
You're going to consider a wider range of user needs.
So you end up with more robust and equitable AI solutions.
Exactly.
Diversity isn't just the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do.
It makes good business sense.
So remote work is becoming increasingly common. I'm curious how that's impacting the AI talent landscape.
It's definitely changing things, with AI talent spread all over the globe.
You don't have to be in Silicon Valley anymore?
Nope, not at all. So companies need to adapt their strategies for managing these distributed teams.
What are some best practices for leading these virtual AI teams?
Communication is key, regular check-ins both individually and as a team.
So people don't feel isolated.
Right, and you need to invest in tools that facilitate collaboration.
Like what kind of tools?
Shared project management platforms, virtual whiteboards, things like that.
It's about creating that virtual environment where people can connect and feel like they're part of a team.
Exact.
So leadership is obviously crucial in all of this.
Absolutely.
The guide talks about the need for strong leadership to guide teams through this AI landscape.
You need leaders who can inspire and motivate.
They need to have that technical expertise, but they also need to be visionaries.
Right. They need to be able to articulate a clear strategy for how AI can transform the organization.
And they need to be adaptable.
Oh, yeah. The field is constantly changing, so leaders need to be able to pivot and adjust course as needed.
And they need to be great communicators.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They need to be able to break down complex concepts, build trust, foster collaboration.
It sounds like AI leadership is a pretty demanding role.
It is, but it's also incredibly rewarding.
We've covered so much ground here.
Yeah.
But one theme keeps coming up again and again, the importance of people.
At the end of the day, AI is a human endeavor.
It's about building a culture that attracts, retains, and empowers talented individuals.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been so insightful. I'm really starting to see just how complex and interconnected this whole AI talent thing is.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
But it's also incredibly exciting.
It really is. There's so much potential for innovation and growth.
But we can't forget about the human side of it.
Absolutely.
So speaking of the human side, one more thing I'm curious about. Why is it important to stay connected to the broader AI community.
Oh, that's huge. You don't want to be working in a vacuum.
You need that outside perspective.
The AI community is so vibrant. There's so much knowledge sharing and collaboration happening.
So it's about going to conferences, participating in online forums, contributing to open source projects.
Exactly. It's about being part of that global conversation.
And learning from the collective wisdom of the AI community.
Right. Because you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
There's so much out there already.
Exactly. And by tapping into that, you can accelerate your own learning and development.
It all comes back to that continuous learning idea.
It does always be learning, always be growing.
This guide has really given us a lot to think about.
It has. It's a great roadmap for navigating the world of AI talent.
It highlights the challenges, the opportunities, and the ethical considerations that we all need to be thinking about.
And it emphasizes that this is a journey, not a destination.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
You got to find what works for you and your organization.
And be prepared to adapt as the field evolves.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, it's about people.
It always comes back to people.
This has been an amazing conversation. I feel so much more informed and prepared to tackle these challenges.
I'm glad to hear that.
But before we wrap things up, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
We've talked about preparing for the future, but what about the really long game? What skills will be in high demand 5, 10, even 20 years down the line?
Wow, that's a tough one. It's hard to predict the future.
I know, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, one thing's for sure, the pace of technological change is only going to accelerate.
Right.
So the ability to learn quickly, to adapt to new tools and techniques, that's going to be more valuable than ever.
So those who are comfortable with ambiguity, who embrace change, they'll be the ones who thrive.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to see a growing need for people who can understand and explain AI systems.
So as AI gets more complex, we need people who can make sense of it.
Exactly, because these systems are often black boxes.
We need that transparency.
We do, and this goes beyond just technical expertise.
Who else is involved?
You need communication skills, storytelling skills, even ethics.
Because we need to be able to articulate the implications of AI.
Right, to address concerns about bias, to ensure that AI is used responsibly.
It sounds like the future of AI talent isn't just about technical skills.
No, it's about human skills.
Empathy, creativity, critical thinking, the ability to collaborate and build relationships.
Those are the skills that will complement and enhance AI, not be replaced by it.
That's a really powerful message.
It is. It's about finding that balance between the human and the machine.
This has been an incredibly eye-opening conversation.
I'm glad you found it valuable.
I'm starting to see the potential for AI to really transform our world.
It's an exciting time to be working in this field.
But it also comes with a lot of responsibility.
It does. We have to be mindful of the ethical implications.
We can't just focus on building cool tech.
We have to make sure that it serves humanity.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about.
Me too. It's a constantly evolving landscape.
And we all need to be prepared to adapt and evolve along with it.
Absolutely.
It's amazing to think about how far AI has already come.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
And makes you wonder, where does it all go from here?
Right. What's next?
What's the next chapter in this whole AI talent story?
It's hard to predict the future, but
I know.
we can look at the trends.
Give us a glimpse into your crystal ball.
All right, so one thing is for sure, the demand for AI expertise is not going away.
It's only going to get bigger.
Oh, yeah. It's going to skyrocket.
So the competition for that top talent is going to be even more fierce.
Absolutely. Companies are going to have to get really creative to attract the best people.
So those unicorn employees, those people who can code and do business,
Oh, yeah. They're going to be even harder to find.
what else should people be focusing on to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, specialization is going to be key.
Okay.
We might even see entirely new types of AI jobs emerge.
Like what?
Things like AI-powered decision-making, human-AI collaboration,
I've heard of that.
maybe even AI psychology.
AI psychology. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a whole new field.
So you're saying it's not enough to just be a data scientist anymore?
Right. You need to have a deep understanding of a specific area of AI.
So what about those foundational skills? What should someone just starting out in AI focus on?
Well, I think the ability to learn quickly and adapt to new technologies is going to be more important than ever.
Because AI is constantly changing.
Constantly. So you need to be comfortable with ambiguity, embrace change, really have that thirst for knowledge.
It's that learn-it-all mentality again.
Yeah, always be learning.
Always be growing.
Exactly.
So speaking of growth, I'm curious about the role of education in all of this.
Yeah.
Will traditional degrees become obsolete, or will they adapt?
I think we'll see a mix of both.
Okay.
You know, universities are already incorporating more AI into their curricula,
Of course.
but we're also seeing a surge in these boot camps, online courses, micro-credentialing programs.
So it's almost like the lines between academia and industry are blurring.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a good thing.
Why is that?
Well, it means that education is becoming more aligned with the needs of the job market.
So you're not just learning theory, you're learning practical skills.
Exactly.
This is all very exciting. But I have to ask, are there any risks or challenges we need to be thinking about as AI gets more powerful?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is going to be ensuring that AI is developed and used ethically.
That makes sense.
As AI gets more sophisticated, we need to be very careful about potential bias, discrimination, unintended consequences.
So it's not just about building cool tech.
No, it's about building tech that benefits humanity.
Tech that makes the world a better place.
Exactly.
And that requires really thinking about the ethical implications of AI.
Absolutely.
And being committed to transparency, accountability, and inclusivity.
Those are all essential.
It sounds like the human element is more important than ever.
I think so. AI is a tool.
Right.
And like
Yeah.
any tool, it can be used for good or for evil.
It's up to us to make sure it's used for good.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been incredible.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's given me so much to think about.
Me too.
I'm feeling really inspired and ready to embrace the future of AI,
That's great to hear.
even with all of its uncertainties.
Because there are definitely uncertainties.
Like that's also what makes it so exciting.
Exact.
So to our listener who's been on this journey with us,
Yeah.
we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Who knows, maybe you'll be the one to make the next big breakthrough.
Or start the next unicorn AI company.
Or develop that AI solution that changes the world.
The possibilities are endless.
This has been The Deep Dive.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep diving.